Hey everyone, back again for another video. So in this video, we will be doing both the preparatory work and building titanium intercooler tubes for the Del Sol project. So we have the first portion of this here on the bench. We have 5 vibrant 2.5 inch Vangean HD assemblies, and we have 4 out of a total of 6 necessary titanium Vangean flanges that will be used all in the construction of the tubing for this car. So right now we have 3.5 inch tube stubs on here that are set up for couplers, that those will get removed for the aluminum flanges on or from the Vangean HD assemblies, as well as one being placed on the compressor cover and on the throttle body. So there'll be no couplers on this, it'll all be HD assemblies, and that'll work out very nicely. So the titanium tubing should be arriving tomorrow, and I can begin building the titanium intercooler tubes for it. But in the meantime, I can get the aluminum work out of the way in the form of modifying the intercooler, inlet and outlet, as I said, and placing the flanges on the compressor outlet and the throttle body. So the first order of business, I'm going to drop the intercooler out and get to modifying it, and you'll see the process as we go through with it. I also attempted to build steering stops for the silver car over the weekend, and that project was a disaster. I have an entire video worth of footage filmed going over that, which at this point I'm not planning on releasing unless you guys demand it. Then I can put it together so you can see what not to do and see how what seems like a good idea doesn't translate into a good idea in practice. So let me guys know if you want to see that. If you do, I'll go ahead, I'll throw the video together for it. If not, then it can just disappear into the ethers. But with that being said, I will go ahead and remove the intercooler, and we can get to modifying it. We have all of the Vangean HD conversions done on the parts for the Del Sol. So we have the compressor cover flange, we have inlet and outlet on the intercooler, and we have the throttle body all converted over to Vangean HD flanges. So it's getting very hot in here right now, and I have a little bit of MIG welding to do to get this dead wire off of there. But to weld this seam up on the lower core support, I had to shave that to fit the intercooler. But I will come in tomorrow morning, and prior to the titanium tubing arriving, I can go and weld that seam up. That'll be taken care of. One less thing to do. And from there, I can mount all these other components. I have to make a lower mount for the intercooler, and with everything else being tied to the intercooler, will therefore hold the other components in their final location, as opposed to just having 2 mounts on the upper core support. As you can see, the bolts hanging through in its current state. So I'll get that taken care of, and then once the titanium tubing arrives, I can start mocking up where the intercooler tubes are going to go, and we can start knocking the rest of this out from there. So I will catch up with you guys tomorrow. We'll get the rest of that knocked out and can get rolling on these intercooler tubes. Hey everyone, back to work more on the Del Sol today. So yesterday we went ahead and did the HD clamp conversions rather on the throttle body, on the compressor outlet, and both the inlet and outlet of the intercooler. And off camera, I went ahead and I modified the chassis to be able to accept the titanium intercooler tubes that we will be building for this. So what I did, and it may be a little bit difficult to see, there was the seam of the two halves of the lower core support that I went ahead and welded together. And I also removed a fair amount of sheet metal on either side of the intercooler, as the sheet metal that was there was entirely blocking my ability to build the intercooler tubes. So now that those modifications have been done, we will be ready to begin building the tubes once the tubing shows up. So the one last order of business that I wanted to address prior to building the intercooler tubes is to build a lower mount for this cooling module. As you can see, it has a bit of movement the way it is now, and I put a threaded boss on the bottom of the intercooler, and we'll build a simple bracket that goes over to the lower core support that eliminates the ability for it to move and will keep everything happy in one place. If I build the tubes, especially with expensive titanium intercooler tubing, I don't want there to be any discrepancies and any possibility that they will not fit. So obviously the easiest way to do that is to eliminate movement. So what we will do is to build a simple steel bracket from point A to point B. I will put a riv nut in the lower core support, and the bracket will simply hold everything in place. So let me get some steel stock out, take a few measurements, I can put the riv nut in, and we can start building from there. I did some off-camera trimming on the bumper to make it fit onto the Del Sol the way it needs to. So now that that's done, I have the position of the cooling module locked into place. I can go ahead and pull the bumper back off and get to building the bracket to hold the cooling module in place. So let's do that and then start building this bracket. And with that little bracket build, the intercooler is firmly mounted. And take a look at the finished product. So it's very, very simple. Just some 1-inch wide strip stock, bent 90 with holes rather, to accommodate M8 fasteners and a riv nut placed on the lower core support. So grab it, shake the whole thing. It isn't going anywhere. So very happy with that. And more importantly, with that little bracket, that finishes the preliminary work to get everything else set up and squared away to build the intercooler tubes. So they came in a little bit later today, later than expected, so we're probably not going to get around to building titanium intercooler tubes today, but we do have all of the Tycon Industries materials for these intercooler tubes, and I guess with this bag, and this bag for the wastegate dump tube as well. So intercooler tube wise, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 2.5-inch tight radius 90-degree mandrel bends. So no pie cuts on this one, just to save some time on building it, to make it look a little bit cleaner. And as I've gotten older, as I've done more titanium work, the less and less I like the look of pie cuts, and the more and more I like the look of simple mandrel bends. So have those, have our sections of straight tubing, and we have our Turbo Smart 50mm blow-off valve flange. So In the next video, we'll take all those materials and start building the intercooler tubes for this car. So it should be pretty cool. And while we're here, let's take a look at the space that we're dealt for it. So this will be done a little bit differently than a normal B-series intercooler setup, or intercooler tubing setup rather, as the turbo on my production manifolds sits in this area here with the compressor outlet pointed straight down. So that makes a very simple, essentially a 90-degree bend to go into the intercooler if it's a backdoor intercooler. And if it's a normal cross-flow intercooler, then you have some loop around the lower section of the frame rail on the driver's side here, but nothing too extreme. But obviously that wouldn't work with both the placement of the radiator here and the placement of the AC compressor. So we have to come out of the flange here, through this gap, down here, snake it around, and this side will go to the compressor outlet. On this side, we will come out and essentially 45 up, 45 so it levels off, 45 over towards the intake manifold, and 45 into the flange going into the throttle body. So have everything planned out pretty decently so far. This cold side tube will be 2 pieces just to aid with installation and removal, as coming straight into this flange here and an angle here, it can be a little bit cumbersome to fit everything in if it's 1 piece. 2 pieces makes it a little bit easier, and it gives us another excuse to put another one of those Vibrant HD clamps nice and visible so it looked pretty cool. But sorry we didn't get around to building the tubes this time, but I promise the next video we will go ahead and knock those out. So as I said before as well, if you would like to see me fail in building the steering stops for the silver car, let me know down in the comments. I'll go ahead, I'll edit that video and post it up, along with a little explanation as to why it didn't work out. But until next time, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and we'll see you later.